There is a kind of tiredness that sleep cannot touch. Not physical exhaustion, not burnout, but a deeper weariness. The kind that lives in your chest. You've felt it for as long as you can remember. A quiet sense that this world is too loud, too rushed, too heavy. Even as a child, you may have looked at adults and wondered, why does everyone seem so lost? Why does everything feel like a struggle? Why does ever endure hung a struggle? And when you grew older, that feeling didn't disappear. It matured. Dolores Cannon spoke often about souls who arrive already tired of the cycle. Souls who have lived enough lifetimes to recognize the pattern of Earth, the conflict, the repetition, the endless chase for meaning in places it never truly lives. She said these souls don't feel depressed. They feel complete. And completeness can feel like fatigue in a world that worships striving. You may have noticed it in yourself. You get tired of arguments quickly. You lose interest in drama. You feel drained by competition. You crave silence more than excitement, not because you're weak, but because your soul has already walked these roads. Dolores Cannon described this feeling as soul saturation, a point where consciousness has learned what it came to learn here, where the soul whispers, I remember this lesson. That's why you feel bored by surface-level goals. Why success feels hollow. Why applause doesn't move you. You're not unmotivated. You're beyond what once motivated you. This exhaustion isn't about your body. It's about your alignment. Your soul is no longer synchronized with the frequency of this world. And when alignment fades, everything feels heavier. Even joy feels forced sometimes. Even laughter feels distant. Even hope feels tired. Not because you've given up, but because something inside you is ready for release. Dolores Cannon said there comes a lifetime where a soul stops wanting to prove anything, stops chasing identity, stops seeking validation. It simply wants peace. And when a soul reaches that point, it feels tired, not of life, but of this version of it. You may have caught yourself thinking, I don't belong here. This world feels wrong. I just want to rest. Those thoughts aren't escape. They are memory. Memory of other places, other lives, other realities, where existence wasn't a fight. And if this resonates, if you've always felt tired of this world, it's not because you're broken. It's because your soul remembers what rest truly feels like. And it's starting to long for it again. Dolores Cannon explains something most people are never told. Not every soul comes to Earth to start its journey. Some come to finish it. In her hypnosis sessions, she encountered souls who had lived dozens, sometimes hundreds of lifetimes. Warriors, healers, teachers, survivors. Souls who had experienced every extreme of human emotion. And when these souls returned again, they didn't come hungry for experience. They came full. Dolores said these souls often feel a strange detachment from life early on. They participate, but they don't cling. They love. But they don't obsess. They work. But they don't define themselves by it, because they already know how all of this ends. You may feel this inside you, a sense that nothing here truly surprises you anymore. That human behavior feels predictable. That conflicts repeat like old movies you've already watched. That's not judgment. That's recognition. Dolores Cannon called this soul graduation energy, not in a literal sense, but in consciousness. A point where the soul stops needing intense lessons to grow. So instead of craving more experience, it begins craving stillness. This is why chaos exhausts you. Why negativity drains you faster than others. Why you need alone time to reset. Your soul is no longer built for noise. In her sessions, Dolores heard souls say, I'm done with earth lessons. I'm tired of density. I don't want to come back. Not from despair. From completion. You may have felt this as a child without words. A longing to go home without knowing where home is. A sadness that had no story. That wasn't depression. That was memory. Your soul remembering lighter worlds, quieter existences, realities without constant struggle. Dolores Cannon taught that when a soul reaches this stage, it still lives fully, but it no longer attaches. You stop fearing death. You stop chasing success. You stop proving yourself. You just exist. And in a world built on pressure, that existence feels like tiredness. But it isn't. It's peace trying to surface. That's why you feel different. That's why you pull back. That's why you want simplicity. Your soul is not failing. It is finishing. And finishing doesn't feel dramatic. It feels quiet. It feels soft. It feels like the beginning of rest. One of the quiet truths about you is this. You were never truly afraid of death. Not in a reckless way. Not in a careless way. Just unbothered by it. While others avoided the subject, you felt curious, calm, almost familiar with it. Dolores Cannon noticed this pattern again and again in old, complete souls. They don't fear endings because they understand continuation. To them, death never felt like a wall. It felt like a doorway. You may have sensed this as a child. When someone passed away, you didn't panic. You felt sadness, yes, but also something else. A strange certainty that they were still there. Not gone. Just elsewhere. Dolores Cannon said souls who are nearing completion don't see death as escape. They see it as transition. A change of scenery. A return to a lighter state of being. That's why violent stories about hell, punishment, or judgment never resonated with you. They felt wrong, forced, fear-based. Your soul remembered something different. Peace, expansion, release. This is also why you don't cling to people the way others do. You love deeply, but you don't possess. You understand that everything moves, that nothing is permanent. And instead of terrifying you, that truth comforts you. Dolores Cannon explained that complete souls are not suicidal. They don't want to die. They simply aren't afraid to live. They don't need guarantees. They don't need control. They don't need certainty. Because they know, no matter what happens, they continue. You may have felt this during near misses, accidents, close calls. Instead of panic, you felt calm, as if something inside whispered, "It's okay. You're safe." That voice wasn't logic. It was memory. Your soul remembering that existence doesn't end with the body. And because of that knowing, you don't cling to this world with desperation. You participate, but you don't attach. This is one of the clearest signs Dolores Cannon described of a soul that is ready to move beyond earth lessons. Not because it hates life, but because it understands it. You don't fear endings. You respect them. You feel when something is complete. A relationship, a chapter, a version of yourself. And when it ends, you don't fight it. You let it go. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because souls who remember eternity don't fear transitions. They trust them. And that trust has lived inside you your entire life. There is something about this world that has always felt dense to you, not just busy, not just loud, but heavy. Like everything requires effort. Like joy has to be earned. Like peace is something people chase instead of allow. Dolores Cannon said souls nearing completion feel the density of earth more than others. The emotional weight, the constant struggle, the pressure to survive, succeed, and prove worth. For you, it's exhausting. You may have felt it walking through crowded places, scrolling through endless news, listening to people argue about things that don't truly matter. Your body reacts before your mind does. A tight chest, a deep sigh, a desire to leave. That's not social anxiety. That's energetic mismatch. Your soul remembers lighter realms. Realities where communication was telepathic. Where cooperation replaced competition. Where life wasn't a battle. So this world feels slow, harsh, primitive. Dolores Cannon said complete souls often struggle with Earth's emotional violence, the gossip, the cruelty, the obsession with power. You don't understand why people hurt each other on purpose. It feels unnatural. You've probably thought, why is everyone so angry? Why does everything have to be a fight? Why can't people just be kind? Those aren't naive questions. They're ancient questions. Questions from a soul that has seen different worlds. This is also why you crave nature. Silence, animals, simple environments. Your nervous system relaxes when you're away from human chaos. Because nature vibrates closer to the world your soul remembers. Dolores Cannon taught that when a soul is ready to leave Earth cycles, it becomes sensitive to density. Heavy emotions feel overwhelming. Drama feels pointless. Violence feels unbearable. You're not weak. You're refined, like someone who can no longer tolerate low-quality food. Your soul can no longer digest low-frequency experiences. That's why you feel drained after social gatherings. Why you need solitude. Why you seek depth in everything. You're not antisocial. You're energetically selective. And this world, with its noise and pressure, is simply no longer your natural habitat. That doesn't mean you reject it. It means you're outgrowing it. And outgrowing something always feels like heaviness before freedom. Your soul isn't tired of living. It's tired of density. And that awareness is one of the strongest signs you're ready for something lighter. You've probably noticed something about yourself. Your dreams were never ordinary. While others wanted big houses, fame, money, or status, you wanted something harder to describe. Peace, meaning, freedom. You didn't fantasize about luxury. You imagined quiet mornings, deep conversations, a life that felt real. Dolores Cannon said this is common in souls who are finishing Earth cycles. They no longer desire what society advertises as success. Their cravings move inward. You may have tried to follow the script at some point. Chase goals, build a career, fit into expectations, but it never fully satisfied you. Even when you achieved something, there was a strange emptiness afterward. Not sadness. Just, is this all? That question lives inside old souls. Because your soul remembers existences where worth wasn't measured by productivity, where being was more important than doing. Dolores Cannon explained that advanced souls don't feel fulfilled by accumulation. They feel fulfilled by alignment. This is why you crave simple living, meaningful work, emotional honesty, inner peace more than material reward. You don't want to impress anyone. You want to feel right. That's also why you've probably changed paths many times. Jobs, relationships, beliefs. You're not unstable. You're searching for resonance. Old souls don't settle for environments that drain them. They leave when something no longer feels true. And every time you walk away, you grow lighter. You may have noticed this pattern. When you choose peace over pride, you feel relief. When you leave chaos behind, you breathe easier. When you simplify your life, you feel closer to yourself. That's your soul guiding you home. Not a physical place, but a frequency. Dolores Cannon said souls nearing completion naturally strip their lives down. Fewer attachments, fewer illusions, fewer emotional hooks. Not because they're giving up, but because they're done carrying what doesn't matter. You're not lazy. You're not unambitious. You're not lost. You're liberating yourself from expectations, from pressure, from a world that taught you to chase instead of listen. And every time you choose a quieter life, you feel closer to something ancient inside you, something that knows. You were never meant to live a loud life. You were meant to live a true one. And that truth has been guiding you since the very beginning. There is a knowing inside you that never needed proof. A sense that you've walked this world before, loved here before, lost here before, not as a thought, but as a feeling. Dolores Cannon said souls who are nearing completion often carry a deep familiarity with human life. They aren't shocked by betrayal. They aren't surprised by heartbreak. They don't romanticize struggle, because they've been here. You may have noticed how quickly you understand people, how easily you read situations, how rarely life truly catches you off guard. It's not because you're pessimistic. It's because your soul recognizes patterns. You've seen cycles repeat across lifetimes. Power rising, power falling, love blooming, love fading. So when it happens again, you don't panic. You accept. Dolores Cannon explained that old souls don't crave novelty. They crave depth. They don't seek excitement. They seek truth. That's why shallow conversations exhaust you. Why surface friendships feel empty. Why you need substance in everything. Your soul remembers what connection actually feels like. Not small talk. Not validation, but recognition. You may have felt drawn to ancient cultures, sacred texts, spiritual traditions you were never taught. They don't feel foreign. They feel familiar, as if part of you remembers standing in those temples, speaking those languages, living those lives. Dolores Cannon said this pull is memory awakening, not in images, but in resonance. Your soul responds before your mind understands. That's why certain symbols move you. Certain music brings tears. Certain places feel like home. It's not nostalgia. It's remembrance. And this remembrance makes modern life feel strange, rushed, shallow, disconnected. You carry an inner world that doesn't match this one. Not because you're broken, but because you're ancient. And ancient souls don't fully belong to one lifetime. They walk through many, learning, letting go. That's why you move carefully. Why you don't rush into things. Why you think before you speak. You've learned what impulsiveness costs. You've learned what words can destroy. So now, you choose presence. That choice didn't come from this life. It came from all the lives before it. And every time you pause instead of react, every time you choose peace instead of ego, your soul remembers. I've learned this lesson already. And that's why you're tired of repeating it. Because this time, you're ready to move forward. Not in the world, but beyond it. There is a quiet pull inside you that never goes away. A feeling that this life, as real as it is not the whole story. You may have felt it while staring at the night sky, while watching a sunset, while sitting alone in silence. A soft question rises. Is this all? Not from dissatisfaction, from memory. Dolores Cannon said souls nearing completion often feel a subtle calling. Not a desire to die, but a longing for something lighter, something more familiar than Earth. You don't want to escape life. You want to return to a state of being where things made sense, where love didn't hurt, where existence didn't feel like survival. This is why you're drawn to the stars, spiritual topics, other dimensions, life after death, not out of curiosity, but recognition. Your soul remembers freedom. You may have noticed that you don't fear the unknown. You're intrigued by it, comforted by it. The idea of other worlds doesn't scare you. It feels natural. Dolores Cannon explained that advanced souls often feel like visitors here. They respect Earth, they participate in life, but they don't feel rooted. They feel temporary. You might think, I don't belong anywhere. I'm just passing through. I feel like a traveler. That's not sadness. That's truth. You came here with a purpose. To experience, to learn, to love. And now, something inside you whispers, you've done this. Not in arrogance, in completion. This is also why you don't fear change. Why endings don't break you. Why you trust transitions. Your soul has crossed thresholds before. Birth, death, rebirth. So when something ends, you don't cling. You bow. Dolores Cannon said souls who are ready to leave Earth cycles don't run away from life. They honor it. They finish relationships gently. They forgive deeply. They release without bitterness. Because they know nothing truly ends. It only transforms. And that knowing lives inside you. That's why you feel calm when others panic. Why you trust timing. Why you don't fight fate. You're not passive. You're aware. Aware that this world is a chapter, not the book. And every chapter ends, not as tragedy, but as progression. Your soul doesn't want to disappear. It wants to expand. And that calling you feel is not escape. It's remembrance. A reminder that you are more than this body, more than this life, more than this world. And one day, you will return to what you already know. At some point, everything inside you begins to settle. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop resisting it. You stop fighting the way the world is. You stop trying to change people. You stop needing things to make sense. And in that stillness, a realization appears. You weren't meant to stay forever. You were meant to experience. Dolores Cannon said souls who are nearing the end of their Earth cycles come here with a different intention. Not to build empires, not to chase legacies, but to close loops, to heal old wounds, to forgive ancient grudges, to release karma that no longer belongs to them. That's why you're drawn to inner work. Why you think about purpose. Why you question meaning. Your soul is cleaning its luggage, letting go of what it no longer needs. You may have noticed you care less about being right, less about winning, less about being seen. Instead, you care about honesty, peace, authenticity, connection. That's not maturity. That's completion. Dolores Cannon taught that when a soul is ready to leave the cycle, it becomes gentle, not weak, but soft. You stop judging. You stop attacking. You stop defending. You observe. You understand. You forgive, even when no one apologizes. Because you know anger chains you to the very world you're ready to outgrow. This is why your heart feels heavier sometimes. Not from sadness, but from depth. You feel everything. You've lived enough to know how rare kindness is, how precious love is, how temporary everything is. And instead of terrifying you, that truth makes you grateful. You don't rush life anymore. You savor it. You notice small things, sunlight, silence, breath, because you know this is not your first time here. And it may not be your last, but you also know nothing lasts forever. So you live gently. You love carefully. You release easily. That's not detachment. That's wisdom. If you've always felt tired of this world, not depressed, not hopeless, just ready, now you know why. Your soul isn't broken. It's complete. And when a soul is complete, it doesn't scream to leave. It whispers, softly, peacefully, with gratitude. Because it knows every ending is just a return to something familiar, something lighter, something free. And when that moment comes, you won't be afraid. You'll recognize it. Like coming home,